that post-E3 pre-silly season lull, which means few blockbuster games but plenty of interesting indies. Remember Summer of Arcade back on the Xbox 360? Yeah, Xbox has been following this indie unsummer pattern for some time, and we've benefited from it with classics like Limbo, Fez and Wasteland 3. So what will be the indie darling of 2021? We've got the likes of Last Stop and Eldendor Souls coming, but the biggest studios are taking advantage of the AAA Wasteland 2 with a few sequels, ports and re-releases of note. Microsoft Flight Simulator gets crammed onto an Xbox, while F1 2021 receives its latest iteration. There's also a fair few prominent Game Pass titles, so now might be the time to treat yourself to an ultimate subscription. F1 2021. It's not often that an F1 game arrives on pole with so much to talk about. It's the first F1 game since Codemasters got swallowed up by EA in February, for example. That may be enough time, or not enough time at all, for EA to start repositioning the franchise. It's also landing as the traditional F1 status quo gets a shake-up. 2021 season has brought in various technical regulation changes, plenty of driver moves, many COVID accommodations, and the end result of all those shenanigans has been a new pace setter. Max Verstappen leads the way, and Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes are being posed some questions. Aside from the real world stuff, there's plenty new to stoke a bit of interest in F1 2021. Breaking Point is the first story mode for a Codemasters F1 game, as you choose from one of 4 teams to take to the top. There's a 2-player campaign which will add some interesting dynamics, will you respect the call to let your partner pass, and there's a real season start mode where you can drop into the current state of the World Championship. Go on, bring Sir Lewis down a peg. Chris Tales. A common thread through the month is just how many of the games are coming to Game Pass on day one. Among them is Chris Tales, which, if you squint, looks like a bog-standard turn-based JRPG, but it's actually miles more interesting than that. It looks ace for one, a Saturday morning cartoon that's been repurposed for a game. There's a touch of the modern She-Ra about the class of animation here, and you can move into and out of the frame to get where you're going, like you would in Paper Mario. The developers, Dream Incorporated, are also a Colombian outfit, and their home country's culture and architecture bleeds into the game. Then there's the time-based shenanigans, and there's something genuinely impressive about how Chris Tales has gone about it. You can time jump in battle, or on the game map, and Chris Tales nattily slices the game screen into thirds, with the past on the left, present in the middle, and the future on the right. Moving enemies between them has all sorts of repercussions. We can't quite picture it, but it sounds exciting. The Ascent. Next on the Game Pass bandwagon is The Ascent. Created by just 11 people in Sweden, it looks tighter and more atmospheric than games made by, say, 1,000 people as a follow-up to The Witcher 3. Yet this is a cyberpunk game, so there'll be inevitable comparisons with that other recent release. But The Ascent has some rather different ambitions. This is an action RPG, but with a perspective that's normally reserved for twin-stick shooters. You wander about an isometric landscape, aiming your laser sights at opponents and utilising an arsenal of weapons to take them down. The Ascent also feels like an old-school RPG, with dense environments, intricate dialogue trees and plenty of ways to level up. But it's the atmosphere that gets us excited. We're still bemused how 11 people could have created it, but this world is one of the most fantastically realised that we've seen in modern times. Trailers make us want to grab a pad and explore ourselves, and that's got to be a good thing. Microsoft Flight Simulator. Grab your £200 flight stick and yoke system. Microsoft Flight Simulator is due for arrival on the Xbox. And yes, Game Pass gets you a free-ish ticket. If you've ever found yourself on a long-haul flight and thought, I want to be the one at the front, yanking all the sticks, then Microsoft Flight Simulator is clearly the game for you. Somehow, the entire PC experience has been vacuum-packed into an Xbox download. You're getting 2 million cities, 1.5 billion buildings, and over 37,000 airports. Sure, they may have cheated and borrowed notes from map software, but still, it's mind-boggling. This isn't going to be for everyone, but the people it is for, well, this is going to be all-consuming. With day-night cycles, weather systems and hangars full of planes to try out, from commercial to private, this is going to disappear a few people from our streets. Last Stop. A bit like seeing a Spike Lee joint on a movie or limited edition on a Kit Kat Chunky, the label from Annapurna Interactive is a guarantee that you're onto something fascinating and probably damn good to boot. So we come to Last Stop, which has a doubly strong pedigree, as it's also designed by the fine folks who gave us a Twin Peaks loving mood piece, Virginia. But where Virginia was abstract and non-linear, Last Stop is opting for more traditional storytelling. At least that's how it seems. This looks to be an anthology piece, where the various storylines come together at the end, much like a Quantic Dreams game. It's set in modern day London, and you play 3 different characters. There's Donna, a teenager who gets involved in a spot of unintended kidnapping, John, a single dad who uncovers a cursed artefact, and Mina, a cutthroat businesswoman who discovers something magical in the company's basement. There will be emotional twists and turns, and plenty will be hidden below the surface. Expect this one to be on best narrative game lists come the end of the year. Eldendor Souls. So, you've got a game that's a Souls-like, hard as nails and with plenty of ludicrous screen-sized bosses. How do you suggest to a discerning gamer that this is one of those games? Why, throw a couple of darts at Souls games and smush their titles together. OK, they've stopped short of calling it Eldendor Souls Neo Dies Twice, but it's in the same ballpark. Let's file away that cynicism, as Eldendor Souls deserves better. It's made by Roki developer Fallen Flag Studio, and while it's the latest in an incredibly long line of pixel art games, it's one of the better ones. Animations have a silky flow and the bosses are well designed, looking appropriately grotesque and odd. We're assured that this is a challenging, with your single obsidian sword upgrading as you attempt to match the challenge of the old gods. You're the one, last hope for saving the world, and without you, they will be stomping around, scattering about apocalypses like confetti. A Telltale Innocence, Xbox Series XS Edition. There's every chance that you neglected to play 2019's hit, A Telltale Innocence. Well, now you have a couple of reasons to give it a spin. The first is that its sequel, A Telltale Requiem, has been announced for launch in 2022, so you've got time aplenty to prepare for it. The second is that A Telltale Innocence is getting the spit and rub treatment with a lovely Series XS release. That means the usual list: 4K resolution, 60 FPS and other visual improvements. If you've got yourself a Series XS, then this was already a bit lovely, so we may be looking at a game to demo to your mates. Is it worth playing? Mais, bien sûr. Its stealth may have been a tad dull and muted, but this was an otherwise ravishing little action narrative stealth game. Set against the backdrop of a crumbling medieval France, you play children looking to survive the plague, rats, plague rats, and evil adults who are looking to reduce your life expectancy. It's got some lovely contrast between the beautiful and the very, very depressing, and this release will only make those contrasts starker. Orcs Must Die Free. Near the top of the franchises we'd forgotten about list is Orcs Must Die. We last got an iteration of this heir to Dungeon Keeper in 2012, which launched mere months after the first game in 2011. So there's been a 9-year gap, which excuses us forgetting that the series existed. It's easy to forget just how much fun the originals were. They were frantic tower defense-y action games, with you plonking down siege weapons and traps while chewing through waves of orcs yourselves. Blood and quips rained down, and it was very much at its best with a friend. Orcs Must Die Free amplifies everything, but chucks in some orc-inspiring additions. There's a story mode, daily challenges, and some custom-made scenarios created to be near unfinishable by the various designers at Robot Entertainment. And it wouldn't be Orcs Must Die without some ludicrous new weaponry. If you want to turn your castle into a splatterhouse, build yourself some saw blade launchers. Microsoft's pledge to bring more goodies to Game Pass is already bearing fruit. The Ascent, Microsoft Flight Simulator and Chris Tales are all due for launch on their individual day ones, and those are the only ones we know about. Microsoft have a habit of tucking other games into our belt when we're not looking. Next month is the last of the dry summer months before the silly season starts, so don't expect a glut of goodies in August. Still, we're coyly making eyes at Hades and Psychonauts 2 across the Xbox dance floor, and there are a few you might not be aware of, including In Sound Mind and Foreclosed, that are looking sultry too. Let us know what you'll be taking in and comment below.